Tell me if this sounds familiar. Meow. You just hit it into the trees on a par 4 and you've got to punch out, but you can't quite get it to the green. What yardage are you setting up for your approach? Or better yet, what about when you have to lay up on a par 5 that you can't quite reach in 2? What yardage are you setting for your third approach shot into the green? In today's video, we're gonna be talking about that dreaded half wedge shot that most amateurs don't practice and that they really hate. We're also gonna be referencing our friend, the Cleveland guy for wedge solutions. Let's do it right now. Thank you very much for tuning in to my YouTube channel. My name is Kenny. Some of you may know me as Kennie Kat. I am a competitive golfer, and this channel is dedicated to my journey on what it takes to become a better competitive golfer. Just so you know, I do upload content every single Tuesday and Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you are new to the channel, thank you very much for stopping by, and if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. As always, if you do happen to like this content, the best compliment you can pay me is a thumbs up. And don't hesitate to hit that subscribe button below. I always have new exciting content. All right, so we're gonna take a look at the Cleveland Golf for wedge solutions. And we talked about this in a previous video that I'm gonna throw a link in below or probably throw something in the annotations up here. And this guy, today we're gonna be talking about wedge distances from 60 to 120 yards. If you have to lay up on a par 5 or you have to make a recovery on a par 4, these are good distances to practice to give yourself a decent chance at a birdie putt and also to potentially save par if you happen to get yourself into some trouble on a par 4. My Arccos data actually shows that I've increased the frequency of the approaches that I hit inside of these distances to almost 30%, which is basically 1 in 3 of my approach shots. And a lot of that is due in part to the bombs that I've been hitting on par 4s. Yeah, you heard me correctly. Hitting bombs. Driver, wedge, putter, birdie. That's actually my new jam. Driver, wedge, putter, birdie. Driver, wedge, putter, birdie. Driver, wedge, putter, birdie. Driver, wedge, putter, birdie. All right, this has gone on way too long. Another thing that I noticed is I went over to the Arccos blog and it showed that when you break down these two ranges, players that are 6 handicap or higher are almost 10 to 20 feet further from the hole. And I'd guess that this is more distance and direction, but that's not really that shocking. Lots of amateurs that I've played with and that I talk to hate these half wedge shots. And it's a lot of them not practicing it, but it's also because they don't like to have shots that aren't full swing because you have to have rhythm and you have to have a different tempo and a different cadence in order to hit these shots effectively. That's why this guy specifically has this section covered in a completely different part of the book because they are different shots. Let's take a look at the Cleveland Wedge Guide and how they suggest to handle these distances. Let's head on over to the range. All right, this guide is going to be situation number 4 and it covers 60 to 115 yards in the booklet. I'm gonna be talking about 60 to 120 yards because those are the distances that I hit. Remember, it's not important that your wedges go the exact same distances as mine do or what's discussed in the booklet. What's important is that you know the baseline shots for your wedges. And just for reference, I carry a 50-degree gap wedge, a 56-degree sand wedge, and a 60-degree lob wedge. Because these distances are a little bit longer than what you're probably gonna have in your average practice facility, most places that I go to don't have a 60 to 100 yard area where you can really hit, these 3/4 wedge shots. I practice on the range and I use a personal launch monitor. In this video, I was using the Swing Caddy SC200. There's lots of them in the market. I've actually ordered a couple of them and have been working through them. I'm gonna do some reviews about them later, but just know that I'm getting my distances from my personal launch monitor for the purposes of this video. So my 3/4 60-degree shot goes 60 yards. My 3/4 sand wedge carries 70 yards. And my 50-degree gap wedge with a 3/4 swing carries 85 yards. Now, you may have noticed there's a little bit of a larger gap between my sand wedge and my gap wedge. When I need to hit that 75-yard window, I can lean my 56 forward to de-loft it or choke down on my 50 depending on which trajectory I want to hit the ball. The next section of shots covered in the book are going to be my 80 to 120 yard distances. Cleveland Wedge Guy Solutions recommends that you hit your highest lofted wedge at a full swing shot Full disclosure, I never hit my lob wedge with a full swing. The ball goes way too high for my likes, and it spins way too much for me to control it. But most importantly, the strike has to be absolutely perfect, or else the shot's gonna end up 30 yards short. But those are my own personal preferences. I know there's lots of players that don't hit full lob wedge shots for very similar reasons. I'm going to go through the booklet as if I was using my 60 degree for a full swing shot. My 60 degree lob wedge at a full swing is 87 yards of carry. My 56 degree wedge is 101 yards of carry at full swing. My 50 degree wedge is 118 yards full swing. So the wedge guide has a couple of different ways for you to handle these distances when you need to add or take 5 or so yards off of each of those stock shots. The wedge guide recommends that to add 5 yards of distance, you close the face 1 to 2 degrees and aim a little to the right. I personally don't like looking at a closed face because I struggle with pulling my wedges sometimes, but this is just a guide, and there are no rights or wrongs in the game of golf. Practice both and figure out what works for you. In order for me to de-loft the wedge by a few degrees, I simply lean the handle forward, and that takes a little bit of loft off, and with the same swing, I can usually hit 5 more yards on each shot. And the guide talks a little bit about what you can do to take 5 yards off of that stock number. It recommends that you actually open the face a little and grip down on the club. I actually love this method because it's a bit more forgiving on the strike since you can mishit it more out the toe, and it tends to add more spin when you hit it out of the toe, which is going to help you hold the ball on firmer greens. So all in all, this guide that I've been practicing is a really simple solution, and it's really helped me improve my wedge game. As many of you know, and if you've seen my Arcos stats, my short game is the best part of my game. According to Arcos, my short game is on par with the scratch golfer, and that makes sense ever since I've added in these basic wedge ideas. I'm about 30 to 35 feet on average from the flag at these distances of 60 to 125 yards. Which is pretty darn good. I mean, that's right around what a scratch player would be. And I think just simplifying the wedge solutions with having, 3 wedges that you have a few different stock shots with really helps build confidence. And I practice these religiously. Now, I know some of you may be wondering, if I don't hit my 60 degree full swing, what do I do with my 85 to 95 yard gap? Well, the answer is nothing. Want to guess exactly how many approaches that I've had from 85 to 95 yards in the last 20 rounds that I've played? I do not hit to this number if I can avoid it, and I am pretty good at avoiding it. It's just not my number. Play to your strengths and play away from your weaknesses. Actually, that brings me to a really good question for you guys down that lens. What's an area of your game that you're really strong at that you play to that maybe is a bit unconventional? And where's an area of your game that is weak that you play away from that may be a bit unconventional? All in all, I really love this wedge guide manual. It's something that has been very helpful for me in my own game. I'm glad to share it with you down the lens. I put a link to the guide itself in the description below. So feel free to check it out, download it at your own leisure. It's free to download. It's got some really good stuff in there. And I think that if you practice these simple solutions, it will dramatically improve your wedge game. And inside of 120 yards, like these shots are very important to pretty much every single golfer. You've got to be good from these distances if you plan on lowering your scores. Do any of you down that lens use a different wedge system, maybe the clock system, maybe the proprioception method that's a little bit different than what you see in this guide? Let me know in the comment sections below. I would absolutely love to hear some different ideas about what types of wedge play and wedge ideas that you have down that lens. As always, thank you very much for watching my YouTube channel. That's really all I got for you people. Deuces, let's keep it moving.